94 years ago, Maria Dagmar Romanova, who went down in history as the wife of Emperor Alexander III and the mother of Nicholas II, passed away. She was the bride of Tsarevich Nicholas and became the wife of his brother. She was the mother of the Russian emperor and became an exile who lost her son and grandchildren and ended her days alone. There were so many twists and turns and difficult trials in her fate that it could have broken the will of even the strongest of spirits, but she persevered through all the difficulties. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and click on the bell not to miss new videos. This is a channel of learning the world. Let's go! On November 26, 1847, at Berghem, a mansion in Copenhagen, Danish King Christian IX and his wife Louise of Hesse-Kassel gave birth to a baby girl, Maria Sophia, the second of 3 daughters. Unfortunately, there is not much information about Dagmar's childhood and youth. It is known that the girl was a favorite of the house, although not distinguished by a brilliant mind and exceptional beauty, but because of the innate charm could please almost everyone. Young Dagmar adored playing the piano and reading classical literature. Her favorite writer was the French novelist George Sand, who wrote philosophical stories about the gravity of female destiny. From an early age, Maria Sophia knew that, according to tradition, she was destined to marry not for love, but for calculation. It was no secret that representatives of different royal dynasties tied their blood ties to maintain both foreign and domestic politics. The fate of Princess Maria Sophia Frederica Dagmar of Denmark was sealed from birth. Her parents were called father-in-law and mother-in-law of all Europe. Their daughters were enviable brides for many royal houses. The eldest daughter, Alexandra, they married off to King Edward VII of England, and Dagmar was betrothed to the heir to the Russian throne, Nicholas Romanov. Young people treated each other with great affection. It was going to the wedding, but then Nicholas fell ill with meningitis and died suddenly. The bride spent her last days in Nice next to him. Together with her, the heir was cared for and his younger brother Alexander. Their shared grief brought them closer together, and after Nicholas's death, Alexander took his place not only in the succession to the throne, but also next to Dagmar. According to legend, the dying Nicholas himself blessed his brother and bride for this union. The political benefits of such a marriage were obvious. The family was pushing Alexander to this decision, and he himself felt sympathy for the Danish princess. A year later, after mourning had ended, Dagmar agreed to his proposal. In 1866 she went to Russia, where she was greeted with rejoicing by tens of thousands of people. Later she would succeed in justifying the people's love by her sincere devotion to the new homeland and her deeds. The wedding took place in October 1866. Dagmar adopted the Orthodox faith and became known as Maria Fyodorovna. In this marriage 6 children were born, and the firstborn was named after the deceased Tsarevich Nicholas. It was he who was destined to become the last Russian emperor. During the reign of Alexander III, Maria Dagmar did not interfere in public affairs, but was actively engaged in social activities. She headed the Russian Red Cross Society and many educational and charitable institutions, opened shelters for children and the poor, took the patronage of the Cavalry Guard and Cuirassier regiments. Together with the emperor participated in the creation of the Russian Museum. During the reign of Alexander III, Maria Fyodorovna patronized the arts. The politician was a frugal man, but a significant portion of the budget went to painting. Most of Dagmar's time was spent on family obligations, as the emperor suppressed any attempts by the princess to interfere in state and official affairs. It is said that Alexander's beloved felt a dislike for Germany, as she believed that this country had influenced the emperor's foreign policy. In autumn 1894 Alexander III died in the Levadia Palace because of his progressive kidney disease, which began to develop after a train crash near the Borki station. The royal family survived thanks to Alexander, who managed to keep the collapsed roof of the car on his shoulders. But this feat dramatically affected the health of the leader. After the death of Alexander III in 1894, Maria Fyodorovna bore the title of Empress Dowager. The illness and death of her husband was a heavy blow for her. She wrote, "I still cannot get used to this terrible reality that the dear and beloved is no longer on this earth. It's just a nightmare. Everywhere without him is a murderous emptiness. Everywhere I go, I miss him terribly. I can't even think about my life without him. It is no longer life, but a constant trial, which we must try to endure without wailing, surrendering ourselves to God's mercy and asking him to help us carry this heavy cross." 2 hours after the death of Alexander III, Russia welcomed a new emperor, Nicholas II. Unlike his father, the new ruler was not so resolute in public affairs. Maria Feodorovna did not approve of her son's choice. The German princess did not seem a firm enough support for Nicholas, too soft and delicate for a sovereign. Their relationship with her son deteriorated, and she often expressed her dissatisfaction, for which she earned in court circles the nickname, the Angry Empress. The cause of the February Revolution was the internal and foreign policy of Nicholas II. Popular movement grew like a tsunami. Workers staged strikes in factories, riots broke out in the streets, and demonstrations and clashes with police only added fuel to the fire. According to public opinion, only one thing could save the Russian Empire and the dynasty: the abdication of Nicholas II. The revolution caught her in Kiev, and from there she later moved to the Crimea, where she lived for about 2 years. The Empress Long did not want to believe the rumors about the death of her son and his entire family. After the White Guards and the British squadron came to the Crimea, Maria Feodorovna gave in to the entreaties of her relatives and agreed to leave Russia. It seemed to her then that this was temporary, and that after the revolutionary events subsided, she would be able to return. But she never saw her second homeland again. The Empress first lived in England and then returned to Denmark, where she spent the last years of her life, which were very lonely and restless. Her nephew, the Danish king, disliked her aunt. Maria Dagmar Romanov died on October 13, 1928. Her last wish was to rest beside her husband, but her will was not granted until 2006, when her ashes were moved to Russia. In St. Petersburg she was solemnly buried next to Alexander III in the Peter and Paul Cathedral, the burial vault of the Russian emperors. That's all for today. If you liked the video, like and do not forget to subscribe. Bye, everyone.